A heartbreaking scene played out moments after the firefighter's death. Eyewitness News reporter Sue Kalberg shows us how his brothers and sisters paid their respects.
Like a ribbon of grief, they weave their way along Loop 410. Police officers with their flashing lights letting everyone know it's time to pause to honor a fallen servant. Their fire comrades stand at attention on an overpass, lost in thought, reflecting on who will fill a pair of boots now empty. On the freeway, drivers stop and watch, many not knowing what has happened. They hear the plaintive wail of a siren, crying the news that no community ever wants to hear, that someone dedicated to protecting and serving us would never answer another roll call. Traditionally, an honor guard remains with the fallen until their funeral service. Those arrangements are pending. In the meantime, those left behind do what they do all day, every day. They return to duty, waiting for the next call to serve. Sue Kalberg, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.